You really missed an opportunity with this one. Us dudes could have had the chance to see Scarlett Johansson fully naked on screen, and you rate this movie a 12A? Come on, this movie so could have benefited from that R rating slash 15 rating in the UK. And I don't just mean with the nudity. This movie could have been insane action, violence, fun. But instead you went with the watered down PG-13 version, and I just feel like that kind of detracted it from the movie a little. But that being said, Ghost in the Shell is not a completely terrible movie like it looked like from trailers. So basically, I haven't really seen the anime all the way through. I've seen bits and pieces. I knew the entire plot of it. I mean, I knew what it was about, and I was very interested in the story of Ghost in the Shell, but I never managed to sit down and fully watch it. I just watched bits and pieces when it was on TV, so I was never attached to Ghost in the Shell, but I was kind of looking forward to this movie because I was thinking, hey, I haven't actually seen it, but I've heard it's really good, and this movie could be exactly the same, and then that means I have seen it just with Scarlett Johansson in the lead role, and it won't make that much of a difference. But yeah, as a person who's not a big fan of the anime because I haven't fully seen it, these are my thoughts. Now, the plot is pretty interesting. It's something that could have been original, but I just felt this movie didn't take it in its full stride. But it's about a cyborg called Major who was once a human, and she died. So they took her brain and did an experiment, the very first human brain in an android body, and she becomes this ultimate killing weapon called Major. And yeah, it was a pretty decent story in that sense, but when the movie went on, the story sort of stopped happening, and it got a little boring at points. It did drag on a little. I feel like it was a little too long for its own good, even though it's only like 107 minutes. But I do feel like this movie could have benefited from being a little shorter and having a little more of that story in it. But overall, it was interesting. And I feel like if I watched the anime, I'd probably get it more, because I feel like what they did with this film, and I'm not saying that's entirely true, the anime could be exactly the same, but what I think happened is with this movie, they had the exact same plot, but they didn't really focus on it. They focused more on Major as a character, and I feel like they did this for the fans, because fans already know the full story, so they wanted to develop her more. I don't know. Because I have seen the opening scene of Ghost in the Shell, the original, and it's not the same as this movie here. So, you know, I guess maybe they did want to tweak it a bit, and I feel like those tweaks probably would be welcome to fans, but I don't know. There was a lot of controversy about Scarlett Johansson being cast as Major because she's not Asian, she's a white lady, and I'm going to be honest, I thought she was really good in this film. She plays her sort of typical, you know, whispery voice, and it just works for this character, because sometimes in film she can come across a bit wooden. I think she's a good actress, but sometimes her acting's a bit wooden. In this film, it's very like that, but I feel like it was done for a reason, because she's an android, and they really got that sort of android personality across, and I appreciated the little details in films like that, and I thought it was pretty good, and she did a good job. So, you know, they didn't even really go into any detail about why she's not an Asian character. I mean, it didn't matter in the film. It's just like she's a pretty good actress, and she's really good at the action stuff. I think she's great as Black Widow in the Avengers and the other Marvel films. I wasn't a fan of Lucy, but I thought she was pretty good in the action scenes that they gave us. So I think Scarlett Johansson really does have that action star sort of flair to her. And I feel like if this movie does well, they could sort of franchise it. And I feel like if they did franchise this movie, I know there was a sequel to the anime, I feel like they could really add more story to it. Because this film sort of, at points, it just felt like it was there to be fan service. And, you know, that's fine. Fan service is fine. But I just feel like newcomers like me really should have had a bit more to go with in this film. But overall, this movie is visually gorgeous. It looks so good. Like, the visuals are amazing. The look of the future and everything in this film, it looks really, really good. And I really liked it. It was something we haven't really seen too much on film. I mean, it sort of looked like a video game at points. I was sort of watching it thinking, wow, this would be a really cool video game. Just playing as Major, going around blowing up bad guys. It would be really cool. But yeah, watching it was a visual treat. And I'll say, if you're interested in visuals, this movie's worth watching for the visuals alone. because from the trailer some of the effects look really bad, but when they're actually in the film it looks really, really good. You know, when you've got the whole famous jump. See, I have seen some of the anime, I know she jumps off the building, they have that and it looks really good. It's like, it could have looked really bad, but the way they made it look in this film, it was really, really good. And I thought that they really sort of took that scene and made it their own. It looks cool. It looked much better than that like 30-second jump in the Assassin's Creed movie. So I appreciated that. That was really good. The climax, you know, the action scenes in the climax, it sort of wrapped up a little quick. I mean, I know I said the movie dragged, but what I feel could have happened, they could have had it at the same length, but had a bit less of the dialogue and had a bit more of that last scene, because there's a character in this film who I don't want to spoil just in case, but he comes towards the sort of last act of the film. He's sort of introduced as the villain of the film you've seen in the trailers, and I just feel like the relationship between him and Major, it wasn't really focused upon. We didn't get much there. It was just sort of like, this is who I am, and she's like, oh, okay, and then they fight something, and then it ends, and it's like, a lot of action movies do that nowadays, and I just feel like maybe they could have had a bit more emotion in that scene and a bit more explanation for us. But, you know, the ending is quite powerful, so there's that. But yeah, I'm not saying Ghost in the Shell's a bad movie by any means, but I'm not saying it's a great movie and that you should rush out and see it, because, you know, it's not the sort of movie that will win anything. It's not that, I mean, visuals, sure, but yeah, I feel like also the trailer, I go to Cineworld a lot, I have the card, and they kept showing the sneak peek of Ghost in the Shell, and they showed so much in that. So I feel like maybe if I'd only seen the one trailer and I hadn't kept seeing that same trailer in the cinema, then maybe I would have been a bit more surprised by what happened in the last act. But as it stood, I sort of knew, because I'd seen so much about it already in terms of trailers, that it just wasn't really a surprise to me. So I feel like Ghost in the Shell is not going to be a memorable movie, but visually it's gorgeous. The acting is pretty good all around. And it's not by any means a bad movie. So I'd say, yeah, it's worth checking out if you like the visuals and if you're a fan of the anime. If not, you're probably not going to get anything out of it, but it's a fine way to waste an hour and a half, I suppose. So thank you guys for watching, and I will be back soon.